Thank you. Thank you very much for such a lovely, warm reception. I know that you probably have questions you would like to ask Katarina and Leonardo. I don't know if there are questions you want to ask about filming, but please be aware that even though I'm the director of this series, I know nothing about cameras. Don't ask me. I just, it's just not my expertise. But I love working with them, and I think in both cases that it was a huge adventure. And maybe there are some things we didn't touch on, and of course they've advanced in their work because these segments were filmed approximately a year and a half ago, maybe, or possibly a little longer. So we finished production, that is final production. Something just happened to my mind. Final production in May and June of this year. So there's quite a period of time when we bring the project up to broadcast standards for PBS. And by the way, it will be, this will be seen nationally starting the third Thursday in October on primetime PBS television. And one of the exciting things about that is that to date, we've had more than 25 million viewers. There's approximately 1 million viewers for each night for national primetime broadcast. And our, thank you. And these programs are also seen, have been seen in about 50 countries around the world. We have an extensive program called ART21 Access. There are some close to 1,000 screenings scheduled in various parts of the world and across this country in October and November. And in addition to all of that, there's the ART21 Educators Program. So what we care about is bringing their voices to you so that you have the experience of feeling that you are in conversation with them, that they are talking to you, that you have no interpreter explaining to you what they mean by their work, what they're doing. They are telling you, and that's something I care very much about and that ART21 cares about tremendously. So, but of course, tonight you have the opportunity to ask them directly. So, Katarina and Leonardo, is there anything that we left out that we should have included in the segments?
We had that conversation.
He did tell me vehemently.
We're having that conversation.
We did have that conversation.
It continues.
And so I should add that we continue to film with each artist. We've worked with 135 artists to date, and after the major production of this series, plus three other series that we do and put out on the internet, then we continue to work with all of them into the future. So it's like right now it's like having 135 children who need attention seriously. And as they do new projects, we try to keep up with them. So there's a lot of running going on. We can't cover everything, but that is part of what support from the public and from foundations and things goes to, is to help us keep advancing the knowledge of their work. So, Katarina, anything we should have covered that we didn't get a chance to cover?
Well, all the secrets.
Yes, she's a trickster.
No, I'm not at all. Some message coming from somewhere else. No, but I mean, the thing is that you're in your studio so private and so not watched normally, and I found it very difficult to be filmed when I work. And I admire that you apparently let Susan film you while you work, but I'm kind of a little shy, and also when somebody watches you, it kind of influences you how you do things. And so we could only look at models in my studio in a sense. So I was in a phase when you came to my studio where I had a lot of different models, and that's how I work as well. When I plan big projects where I install, that I make a model 1 to 25 or 1 to 30 or maybe 1 to 10 of the same for the same exhibition. And what you couldn't show in this little film, what came out of those models that I've made. And it is actually, last year you came to the studio to film my work, and it was this year that I actually made the work that I planned last year. So sometimes there are these long, like 1 or 2 years that you prepare for a show, and then finally you get to do, oh, it's my mic, that's kind of not so nice. Do you want to have this?
And you can have, you can.
Oh, I can keep both?
Yeah.
Okay. And does this work? Or does this work? Or does this work? I don't know. What shall I do? Oh, cool. There it is. My voice. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing that you see yourself here on the screen, where you think about something that you're doing next year, and at the same time you're maybe installing a show while you do another project that you're making in the future. So you have all sorts of different levels in your studio happening. You have like things sketched out, you have models, you're actually finishing things, and all these things are happening at the same time. And that's probably the same for you. So there is a lot of stuff going on in your head. And maybe that's something that is very difficult to show in a movie or in a film that documents your work, because it focuses on this or on that or asks a question. And when you hear the question actually coming towards you, you go like, oh, shall I say this? Shall I say, you know, you're not so clear in your head, and you have like thousands of answers that you would like to give, but what comes out of your mouth is only like a sentence with words one after the other, you know. And that's maybe a very interesting condition for a painter, that you work in a field where everything happens at the same time. A painting has the ability to show what you did in the first place and what you're doing then and what you then paint on it later on. It's all there on the canvas at the same time. There's no one after the other, like, I mean, for example, I came on an airplane and then I took a car and then I walked here, and what you see of all these different actions is only my body here on the sofa. Whereas in a painting, you can see all these actions at the same time, and that's a special way of thinking somehow. That's a thinking that isn't like causal or hierarchic, in a sense that I say one word and then the next, or like in a movie, you have this picture and then the next frame and so on. But for a painter, things are very like crossovers all the time. It's like, for example, I can't really see you as individuals, for example. If I was zooming in, I would. But for me, it's like all like a big mesh, like a kind of minestrone. So that the world is like a fluid minestrone for me. So, and that is very funny when I see the film. It looks like she goes to the model, she organizes something in it, but this is not how I experience the world, really. So that's what I would like to say. Would you like this? It's a great mic.
You said it all. Actually, honestly, it seems like a lot got said, but what do you guys, I mean, I guess you guys are here. I mean, I'm sure you have questions. You saw the documentary, so I think I'm ready to answer some questions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Once you've moved on from a certain style of artwork, do you ever think of returning to it, and why or why not?
My goodness, the world is big. I mean, it's about as big as your imagination. So if you allow yourself to be stagnated by like one perspective, then I think that that's sort of a counter to like what art is. At least as far as like how I actually go about doing things. I'm asking questions, trying to get answers, and honestly, sort of like trying to move forward. So there's always the additive. I mean, you're never necessarily leaving anything behind. You're only adding to the journey. So yeah. But the return to a specific and actually work from that, it's like, it'd be counterproductive. Yeah.
Yes.
May I ask, I think you explained a little bit why you quit the drawing to the other thing.
Mm-hmm. Why did I quit drawing? I mean, certain things that at some point, they become, you become comfortable. I mean, why would you actually want to find yourself in a position of being comfortable. It's sort of like being stagnant. It's like, life is more interesting when you kind of continue to sort of like, propel yourself forward, I mean, you might consider it backwards, but I hate to believe that, yeah, this has been a push, in order to sort of like find answers. So, and even now, I mean, that's still the same. I mean, it's not like it ended there. I mean, it's still like, boom, 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 forward, 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 never allowing yourself to become comfortable.
Katerina, do you feel similarly?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Both questions, like the question of style and of why do you stop doing something that you were good at or whatever. And both questions imply that these are phenomena that you can describe. Like there is drawing, or there is like style, and there are like in itself there are like countries, let's say, or like something that you can actually name. And I don't know how you feel about it, but very often I think for the people who make it, it doesn't look like a style or like a drawing. It's funny to say that somehow, I think it's a little bit like there is the artwork. Let's say, in my case, it's a painting. Let's say it's a canvas painting. And the canvas is more or less for me like a screen, and I see it from this side, and you see it from that side. And we both look at the same thing, but we don't see it from the same point of view, which is obvious. But we don't see it, or I don't see it as drawing. For me, there is never the word drawing coming to my mind when I do draw. That's the relationship that I feel I have with the stuff I do. And I'm sure there are a couple of artists sitting here, and or other, I mean, when you sing, do you, there's a new visitor here. When you sing, if there's I don't know, maybe there's a singer amongst you, and I've seen a lot of people singing here in those 2 days that I was here. I was amazed, like out in the street all the time. And also yesterday at that beautiful little party, we were invited to people singing and joining in. Do you say, oh, I use my voice now? I mean, you sing. There's such a strong, very close relationship you have with the material you choose. So you never, or when I use a color, I don't even know the name of the color very often. So close, that's so close to you. And I'm sure you have a very close relationship with things like that. Like numbers for people who are dealing with mathematics or something. You're not going to say, numbers, it's like, it's going off, it's spinning off somehow, right? So.
Well said.
It's a question for both of you guys. Do you think art itself it's another dimension of science or vice versa?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Art itself, is it another dimension of science or vice versa?
Is it another dimension of science?
Of science. Yeah, I mean, the investigation, you can't help but notice the correlation between that and, I think, any form of discovery. So, I mean, science being that, and art being that, and my goodness, that, the list goes on. I mean, it's not, those are just, those words are just signifiers, But in the end, it's really about the base is journey and questions and answers, right? Yeah.
What if the answer is the question?
Yeah, that's allowed. Yeah, I mean, this is tricky business, isn't it? So.
Let's see, another.
Yeah, I was hoping it was answered. No, I think it is, I don't know, it's such a thing right now that there's a lot of scientific data used in the art practice. Is that something that you're also referring to with your question or answer? What was it now that you did? Was it? I'm not confused.
Well, weren't we talking about that this recently, or just the other day, that there are scientists who try to prove something that's a predetermined question, and they're trying to get to that answer, and there are scientists who are simply experimenting to find out what is the experiment, and so they're kind of looking for the question. So there are different ways of thinking about both science and art, but I do think there's a deep, deep resemblance, and it's one of the reasons for me that I love to have this in schools everywhere for all ages, because I think it pushes students to think about these kinds of issues. And so why do the thing that I'm comfortable doing? Let's push, why shouldn't I also push myself to figure out something I don't know instead of pursuing always the thing I do know? So I think it's a great lesson. So another, yes, Dana.
Do you ever get stuck, and what do you do when you, to get out of the in-between period?
How did I end up having the mic? No, that's a really great question. I mean, that is something that sometimes you want to get stuck. So you work so as to get stuck. So to put yourself into a position where you have to, like what you say, leave your comfort zone. But I don't know. I mean, I had situations. I think it's interesting. I mean, you get stuck in little things, and I think they are not so interesting. It's good to get stuck, like really stuck, and that's not so often, I would really think. It is, I had, for example, this moment where I was starting to really paint in the museum spaces with the spray gun, and I had this idea of, my first spray piece I made a little maquette, and I was actually very close to that maquette. And I had also a rule, like only one color. Then I did the next spray piece in a museum a little later on, and I had like a rule, 3 colors. And I had the rule, for example, first color first, second color second, and then I'm not allowed to use the first color again. Third color third, not allowed to use, and I had rules, all these. And I was very close to my maquette. And that kind of working process was so tedious, and I got so close to my maquette that was shocking. And it was like so stressful. And I was thinking, why am I doing this? I mean, I'm doing it really well, and it looks like the maquette, and it looks like the plan, and it looks like what the others are thinking I'm going to do, but it's not fun at all, and I have the constant feeling I can go wrong. And that has a lot to do with getting stuck. So then I made a really great decision, which was nothing can ever go wrong. So that was my answer to the getting stuck business. But that's the wrong getting stuck. But that was a big moment for me to, all of a sudden from there, a lot of things evolved. And a lot of possibilities came up. What did I want to say really about? No, I hadn't. Don't laugh yet. It's getting better. No, but I think this. Yeah, I grew up in a time where I had teachers that were probably people like, I mean, in a national, different way of being famous, but like Richard Serra, or people, minimal artists that would say, this is where, this is my focus, this is what I do, this is my specialty, and therefore this area is already dead for you guys, and you guys were the students. So painting had been this and this and this, so my only way to kind of have an existence or a reason for doing what I was doing was to find a niche. And for example, and their credo was, or their belief was, the generation I was taught by, that you needed to surmount a resistance. You needed to kind of climb over something and maybe fail, and failing was a good thing, because it made your work more intense. And I started to, that was another moment of those, how do I get, because they put you in a place where you were stuck somehow, because you're also getting stuck by others, not only by your own stubbornness. And I kind of decided to really think it's not a good thing that I have to climb over something. I discovered it's not necessary to make it difficult for yourself. There's no reason why you should be better because you kind of invent something that's hindering you. So I'm a little also, I'm not so sure it's a good thing to get out of the comfort thing, really. I mean, I would like to put that, yeah, we can.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your take on that very thing, but for me, I mean, like, to see where I started out and where I am now, it's almost like just cause. It's like, wow, this is like, okay, this is expansive. I mean, it's about as far, I mean, you can continue to push this. So the idea of that I could have been working for Marvel Comics, you know what I mean? This seat would be empty right now. Or you'd be talking to another artist, but in the end, it's like, well, it's like that question was asked and hopefully answered for that moment. And more questions are asked. And it's like you continue to sort of like, you know, propel yourself into different realms. And it definitely, for me, makes life more of a profound experience, you know, like, but it's certainly a commitment to a journey. So comfort for me would be the total, no, it's, no. No, comfort, no. An absolute no. So, you know, so yeah, I'm curious about what's going to happen tomorrow. So,
Okay, I think we have time for another question.
Yeah. If you had one piece of advice to give to like a young artist, what would it be?
oh, okay, young artists. Yeah.
Is that you?
See, I mean, really, I mean, like, for young artists, absolutely. One, be aware of what is going on around you, one. If you are serious about creating, you know, find yourself you know, like, your voice is a difficult thing to find. It can take your life, actually, a lifetime to sort of like find your voice, but it is worth the effort. That means, you know, like, not necessarily like, you know, I mean, I started off painting after like Norman Rockwell, Maxwell Parrish, you know, and that was not my voice, you know, but, you know, at some point, you know, as you sort of like make your way through, you know, and you push and you remain true to you, that means you are on your journey, you know. You will make your way through and you will find your voice, you will find yourself. But it does take a level of commitment and bleeding, you know. So it is not an easy thing. So just know this. So your obstacles can be in you and outside of you. But you have to be willing to take them on, you know. Life is beautiful.
Katerina, do you have something to offer?
Yeah, I think this, what you just said about finding the voice is a really great metaphor. And the great thing is, once you have it, you know it right away. And that's really interesting. And I think it's a little bit like falling in love. I mean, I'm sure you've, well, how can I be sure? But it would be great if you had had that experience, or I wish you have it, all of you in your life, because that's a moment where you stop arguing with yourself. You stop debating the pros and cons. It's there. You love that person. You love everything about the person. It's not, the glasses are not wrong, the hair is not wrong, you know, everything is right. And that's exactly the same thing that you feel about your voice when it's there. And that's a really great meter for you to know where you are, you know. And I think doing everything is a good way to find out and find the voice. You can't conceptualize that voice, it's really there, so that's a great thing. But I took a long time to find it, really. But once you have it, it's great. It's, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think mine is pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.
Fall in love a lot, that helps. That's the advice.
Absolutely, that's paying attention seriously.
It'll pay off.
Thank you so much, everybody. What a treat.